Hello everyone and welcome. Welcome to Dorset and Guernsey's video YouTube on demonstrations during this COVID time. I'm Denise Jones and I'm a floral designer, and I live and I work from a studio down in Weymouth in the Jurassic Coast. So what crazy times we're having at the moment. So we thought a group of us demonstrators would share some designs with you, and here is my first design. So I've got this lovely urn. It's a smoked glass urn and it's semi-transparent. So what I've done is I've actually first of all filled my container with some really large leaves, which I've placed in the centre of my vase. And then what I've done is I've poured into the centre some standard household sand, and the sand is going to be my mechanic to secure all of my stems. Now I've already created a little collar of some of these Fatsia japonica leaves, so these big palmate leaves, and that's just created a little frill all the way around the container. And I've part done that because the container itself is very shiny and it's very dominant, so we just need to soften that a little bit so it's not too kind of in your face when the design is finished. Okay, so I've also trailed over a little bit of this variegated ivy. Now because I've got sand as a mechanic, it's if you're familiar with the floral foam, the green floral foam, you could stand that a little bit further than your container and you could push your leaves in, but the sand is only flush with the top of my urn. So we need to choose plant material that drape over the side. So what I've had to do is help my Fatsia japonica leaves because they are quite straight and I can't push up, I need to push down into my sand. So what I've done with my leaves is I've taken a wire and I've what we call thread it, so down the spine, and I've just created a little loop over like so, and then you wire around the stem to secure it all the way down, and then that enables you to manipulate the leaf, and now it is curved, so when I push it into the sand it will drape over the side. And I can just cut that to the length that I want and just put that in the little space there that you were looking at. And this also will shade a little bit of the container. So there you go, all the way around the outside. So in this COVID period we have been stuck indoors, not been able to go out very much, and now the rules have relaxed a little bit and we've managed to get out and about a bit. Obviously we're having to wear face masks very soon in the shops, but we can get out to the shops a little bit more, even those that have been shielding. So my design for you today is a little bit more opulent. So previously I've been just cutting flowers from my garden because I haven't really been going out very much, but this is a little bit of a fusion between some flowers from the garden and some flowers that I've managed to buy just from your local supermarket. And we're going to create as if it's my little dinner party with friends outside, social distancing. So I've got a big box of tricks here, a little bit of a rummage in the garage where I keep all my bits and bobs, and we've got some really nice cane, some really nice coloured cane here, and I've just wired it together to create a stem. And I'm going to push this into the sand right down the centre, a shorter one and a longer one. Ooh. You really have to push it firmly into the sand, but it should act the same way as floral foam. Okay, so it's season now, it's gladioli season, so I've got a wrap of 5 gladioli and I'm going to use 3 of them. They're really chunky stems, as you can see. Okay, they're really heavy and chunky, which are going to take up quite a lot of room in here, so I'm actually going to stake them with a kebab stick, and I'll show you how to do that. So what you do is you cut off flat, so the end is flat there, and then you take a nice sharp kebab stick, so we're going to be having a barbecue, so it's handy that I have some in, and you push that up the centre like so. And now that can go really in, because this container is full of sand. It's quite heavy, so you do have to be careful if you're going to do it this way. and then that then creates a full stem. So this one's not very open, so I have, if you can bear with me, I'll get them out of my little box. I have prepared 3 earlier, and these are like really full out, so you're going to have the beauty for those. So each one has been prepared like I've just shown you. So I'm going to take the tallest one first of all and place it right in the centre. And that kebab stick enables you to be nice and secure, but also allows some of my stem to go into the sand so that it can continue to drink water. And I'm going to put 3 of these in, just at different, like in thirds of the container. You can probably hear me pushing the stems into the sand, so that's nice and secure. As I say, I'm going to do this all round arrangement. I want to have the feel as if it's still kind of growing in the garden, so there was going to be lots of different kinds of plant material. Okay, so I'm going to build up the design. And here I have some gorgeous Pittosporum tenuifolium, and this is just the standard green variety. And I'm going to cut shortish pieces of this and place them just above the Fatsia japonica leaves. So I'm just going to cut them all fairly short so they can go in. So those Fatsia japonica leaves, where you hear the name japonica in a plant name, means they're actually from Japan, and that is the Latin name. These ones are quite limey green, as you can see, and that's because they have been positioned in a very sunny spot. If you want them a darker green, it's best if you grow them in your garden in the shady areas. Okay, so I'm just going to build up this little collar. Just repeating the same as the Fatsia japonica leaves, and go all the way around the edge. So, sand for a mechanic to hold our stems. Well, sand has been around a really long time, so it's a little bit like we want to be a little bit more eco-friendly, because that green floral foam is really plastic and not really biodegradable. So I'm kind of a little bit back to the future. So back many years ago, as far back as Egyptian times, you might see in the hieroglyphics and history that you read, you see pictures that they had offerings when the pharaohs passed away in the tombs, the food and flowers, and their mechanics were sand. So I'm going back, but moving forward with the future. So there we have a collar of the Pittosporum, just building up layers as you go around. Okay, so I'm just going to add some more foliage, but it's got some pretty flowers on. Have a little nosy in here. And what I have here, just to pick up the purple of the gladioli, is some really scrummy, really lovely, hebe. Really nice fluffy texture. So where the Fatsia japonica leaf is very smooth and very shiny, then this is nice and delicate and a little bit fluffy, so it's in a contrast to the Fatsia japonica leaves. And I'm going to intersperse this hebe in between the Pittosporum. So there's lots and lots and lots of varieties of hebe, and different sizes of flower. This is quite a large one with a nice dark green leaf and this lovely lilac-y purple flowers. I'm going to put in a few at different heights, but really pushing it firmly. And when you're pushing into the sand, or if you use floral foam, if you hold the bottom of your stem like a pencil, and if you push in and then work your way up the stem, it will work into your sand if you're using the sand, or if you're using floral foam. Makes it nice and secure. a little bit more pittosporum on there. So we've got quite a few stems to go in here, so I'm not going to go too mad with the Hebe, because we can always add a little bit more later. One last little bit, I think, just to balance it. So when you're flower arranging, balance is really important. So not only has it actually got to physically stay balanced so it doesn't topple over, but it also needs to look visually balanced. So you have to really be careful and considerate where you place your plant material. So when you're looking at it, this isn't all round, so this is why I'm turning it for myself and obviously you as viewers to have a look at, to make sure I'm filling in those little gaps. Okay, so now I'm going to add some bolder flowers, because down here at the bottom we've got a lot going on at the top and we need to sort of balance that a little bit around this collar. And I've got one of my favourite flowers at this time of year. So we've had, whoops. Okay, so we've had the purchased flowers from the supermarket. Now we have these absolutely glorious, as you can see, beautiful hydrangea macrophylla. Some gorgeous pink ones. These are out the garden. They're quite short stem because I've cut them off the plant already. Really nicely conditioned well, so they're going to go in around this space to bring your eye to the sort of centre of the arrangement. So these hydrangeas are beautiful at this time of year. This is the time of year that they're in full bloom. They're all different colours at the moment, so we have pinks, different shades of pink, reds, blues, mauves, all sorts of colours. They are really gorgeous. What you have to be careful if you're picking hydrangeas for flower arranging is they are very thirsty flowers. So you might have noticed if you grow them in your garden, you're forever watering them, because even if it rains. But also if you're flower arranging, you have to condition them. And what conditioning means is preparing your flowers to arrange them. And that involves cutting the stems and giving them a good drink. I'm just turning that round and just building up. I've got one last go in this little space. So with hydrangeas, when you pick them, the best way to have them a good drink of water is if you pick them, you cut their stem, and then if you turn it, the head of it upside down in a bucket of water, and if you leave it overnight, and then shake off the water excess, and then recut the stem about an inch, and then put it in a good 3 or 4 inches of deep water, and it will have really drunk up that water through every part of the flower, and it should be perfect for flower arranging. Okay, so there's the hydrangea that's gone in. So we're going to build up the top area now for you. And what we have here is more flowers from the garden. So what we have here is some antirrhinums, or if you're not familiar with the Latin name, then known as snapdragons. Really beautiful, delicate little flower. And what's really fun, it reminds me of my childhood playing in the garden, and the reason why they're called snapdragons, if you can see there, is because they're like a little bearded dragon, and when you pinch it, it's as if it's a little talking dragon head. Really, really cute and great flower for flower arranging. So I'm going to start with these sort of creamy lemony ones, and I'm going to put those at the top. Just snipping off the ends. So just a little bit out of the water, not much, just about 1/4 of an inch. And then place those in between the purple ones. Just at slightly varying different heights. Pushing it in nice and securely. What's great with the sand, unlike floral foam, if you have flower arranged before, is it's a little bit like if you remember when you're on the beach making sandcastles. You know, the water comes along and it fills in the hole. So if you make a little mistake, not that we do, but if you do, you can just pull out the stem and push it back in wherever you want to, and obviously the sand will cover the whole back in. So I've got a few more of the pinky red ones, and I'm going to add those a little bit further out as a little bit of movement. So I didn't say at the beginning, talking of the sand as a mechanic, when you're adding the sand to your container, so add dry sand to your container, waterproof container that is, and then you pour in water to the consistency as if you're making a sandcastle. So you don't want it too dry because you want it to hold the stems, and you don't want it too wet that it doesn't hold the stems enough for you. So it's about the consistency of a sandcastle. I always say you can always add a little bit, so a bit like cooking. That's what we all actually do in a floral recipe really. You can always add a little bit more water rather than taking it away. So there you have the snapdragons added. So next what we have in here, we have some beautiful blush coloured spray roses. Really, really beautiful, very delicate. And as I say, I wanted just to create a feeling as if, you know, it's a beautiful garden growing full of flowers. So I'm just going to take those down a level, almost to act like a transition between the really tall, the line material of the gladiola is really strong line all the way down, bringing your eye to the centre. And this is just going to fill in this little transition area between that and these very bold, obviously, hydrangeas. Very pretty blush, so quite a multicoloured arrangement, but at the moment that is what the garden is like, abundance of colour. So I've carried on flower arranging while in lockdown. I was furloughed for the first few weeks. So I took to the garden, and I'm not the best gardener in the world. I've got a lovely little cottage kind of garden, live in a little Victorian terrace house in Weymouth. But we decided that we would take the opportunity to revamp the garden, and we planted lots of beautiful flowers, and I'm really proud that they're all growing. And as I say, the snapdragons are from the garden, so really quite proud of that. Okay, so there we have the spray roses all added all the way around, just to act as a transition. There's still a little bit of space here, but we're just going to have a little bit of a filler. And to do that, we've got these absolutely gorgeous pink Alstroemeria, or Peruvian lily. I'm actually allergic to the lilies, so I have to be really careful from the lily and these Alstroemeria that I don't touch my face. So again, when you're working with flowers, it's always best not to touch your face because they're so beautiful, but there are quite a few of them that are, you could get a skin irritation. Now these you can grow in the garden this time of year. It's a really good flower to grow, but these are just from a supermarket chain, really cheap. At the moment there's quite a few flowers that they do. 2 packets of flowers for £5. So if you want to treat yourself, then it's a really good opportunity. So my sand is gone quite firm, so what I'm just doing is taking a pencil, creating myself a little hole. Just then I can put my stem in really easy and push it a little bit further down, like so. The hydrangeas are quite bold, so we just need a little bit of something extra when I've added the lilies. As I say, I found the gardening really therapeutic. And I think flowers of any type, really, if you're working with flowers, whether it's gardening or flower arranging, a really good therapy. Just, I think the scents that they give off, you know, the garden flowers are more scented than the commercially purchased ones. But where the flowers are pollinated by the bees, they're the ones that will be more scented. So the flowers that are pollinated by wind or water are not usually scented. So that's in with the lovely Alstroemeria. I'm just going to add one more just at the back here. So I hope that during lockdown you've all stayed safe. And one of the reasons we are doing these demonstrations together for, if you're a member of NAFAS, which is the National Association of Flower Arrangers, you'll obviously know that we've not been able to meet at our flower clubs. So we thought we'd try and bring you some demonstrations to your home. Okay, finally I've just got some larger headed roses. And what I have here is these avalanche ivory coloured roses for you. And what you do initially is take off one or two of the outer petals. These are called the guard petals, and they're there to protect the flower. Really large headed rose. I'm just going to put those low into the design, just to take your eye through into the centre. So, because my container is an urn, obviously back in Georgian times, Victorian times, they used obviously urns, very, you know, proud of their gardens. And because I'm trying to do this design as if it's still growing in your garden, then this is why I'm also adding lots of garden flowers. So I'm just creating an extra little hole. I'm going to add one more Alstroemeria. And one final little rose. Just low into the design. So gorgeous pinks and purples. So there's just one or two gaps just down the bottom, which I said at the beginning I wasn't going to fill it with too much foliage. So I'm just going to add a little bit of this purple statice. Nice beautiful lilac-y colour, and this will dry perfectly just as it is. And this is just going to go into the little gaps around in between the hydrangeas, or anywhere I can see just a little space. Just cutting it really short. Just to take your eye deeper into the design. So just to finish with, we've got some lovely pieces of lavender here. The scent is just scrummy. I'm going to cut them all short, just so we can just place them around and in amongst our lower flowers. We're just going to create a little bit of space because these are quite light and airy. Just as we're just following our circular design around. As I say, your eye then will follow the lavender around. I don't know if you can hear that, we've got a few seagulls flying around here today, so if you can hear the seagulls, if the videos pick them up, that's the joys of living in Weymouth. But at least it's not the, we have quite a few of helicopters flying over as well, because we've got the Sailing Academy and the old naval base, so they do a lot of exercises around here. So just add in the lavender, just to create a little bit of movement and rhythm. Just put on a few pieces higher up as well. And this lavender colour is picking up on the lilac colour of the status as well. There's lots of different textures in this design, but it is made as an all-round arrangement. So just trying to make sure it's balanced to the eye, to visually balance that all the way around. So repeating the plant material going all the way around the outside. So just one final piece going in. So there we have my design. I hope you've been inspired by the design. It's an all-round arrangement, just ready for my dinner party this weekend, socially distanced and outside with our friends. We've got the strong line of the gladioli and the twigs going all the way down the centre to bring your eye into the middle. We've got the alströmera and the spray roses and the snapdragons in the centre, just acting as a little bit of a filler before we see these bold hydrangeas at the bottom. And then finally we've added the lightness of the lavender going all the way around, and as many of you have probably heard, leaving a little bit of room for the butterflies. Beautiful colour theme, pinks and purples, lilacs and blushes, all abundance at this time of year. And I've tried to create a feel of my little cottage garden. So I hope you've enjoyed it. My final thing is to stay safe during these crazy COVID times still, and happy flower arranging. Thank you.